Hey, welcome back. I'm gonna be stopping in like maybe 45 minutes or so, but I'm gonna be streaming for a little bit because I need to eat, and then I also need to set up a plate. So yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna play these guys in the background. I'll stop in between to do commentary. I'm gonna restart the video because I kind of don't remember where it started or where I left off. But if you're watching, welcome. Um, yeah, that's kind of about it. There's not that much more to it, so let's go ahead and get started.
Welcome back to hell. So, previously on the sitcom known as America, we discussed the simultaneously hilarious and also very troubling news that not only does the president's cabinet plan out sensitive military operations in a dang group chat, they also sometimes accidentally invite prominent journalists to observe.
You fat finger it sometimes, and there's an Atlantic journalist in
Who
there.
among us? Now, this was needless to say quite embarrassing, but also not at all surprising, considering our current Secretary of Defense is a raging alcoholic dumbass whose only qualification for the job was that Trump saw him on the TV hosting Fox and Friends Weekend a bunch. That was Monday. And in the days since, the whole thing has only gotten dumber. Absolutely no one involved in that group chat has taken any responsibility, nor has the president or anyone else from the administration. And by Wednesday, the journalist who had found himself in that war chat decided that maybe if he just went ahead and released the chat logs, it would help everyone better understand just what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, it wasn't even that they were denying involvement. They were like, actually, nothing went wrong. That was actually a perfectly fine conversation with no classified information. And it would be ridiculous for us to be talking about classified airstrikes in a chat room. That would be crazy.
What's the big deal? It was just boys being boys.
And then he leaked the rest of it.
Yeah.
It was, let's not get ahead of ourselves, though. Let's start with Tuesday, when, thanks to some hilarious timing, key players in what's being called Signalgate were brought before the Senate Intelligence Committee to get grilled about it. Normally, there wouldn't be such a quick turnaround, but an annual congressional hearing with the U.S.'s top intelligence officials was already on the calendar. So it worked out great.
Oh, now that we got you here.
You guys couldn't have fucked up at a more perfect time.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So here's the Washington Post with how that went. Senate Democrats on Tuesday hammered the Trump administration's top intelligence officials on how and why the vice president, defense secretary, national security advisor, and other top cabinet members made the reckless decision to use a commercial messaging app to discuss secret war plans for Yemen, while also inadvertently including a journalist in the group chat. If this was the case of a military officer or an intelligence officer and they had this kind of behavior, they would be fired, Warner said in his opening remarks at Tuesday's hearing, noting that in addition to the targeting information, the text chain included the identity of an active CIA officer. Whoops. This is one more example of the kind of sloppy, careless, incompetent behavior, particularly toward classified information, exhibited by the Trump administration, Warner said. This is not a one-off. How is it that nobody bothered to even check? Who are all the names? Warner added. I mean, we asked that question on Monday when we filmed. Glad that some people are asking the same questions to the people involved.
It is
How would you not notice
a
that?
key question. I thought it was the other Jeff Goldberg, the cool Jeff Goldberg.
I mean, even Elliot will tell you, the less links in a chain, the stronger that you're not going to fuck up.
Yeah.
If you got too many people in there, you got people in there that you don't even know, then it's not secret.
It's not secret. But if there was ever a week to reply all to a company-wide email, this is the week, guys.
Yeah.
Because as annoying as that might be, as irresponsible and stupid as that might be, I mean, you're just following the lead of the fucking executive branch of the U.S. government.
Yeah, these are top officials. And no DEI, by the way. So
None.
these are the best in their field.
The best.
On merit alone is how these people made their way through the ranks of the military or government or whatever, and none of that pesky DEI. So this
no DEI, just DUI.
Yes.
Anyway, it continues. Gabbard, Ratcliffe, and the other government witnesses provided few answers. After Gabbard at first declined to say whether she was involved in the group chat at all, she and Ratcliffe then told senators that the information shared over Signal was not classified. At other times, they denied the details contained in the Atlantic's reporting, or said they could not recall the exact contents of the messages. They repeatedly deferred to Trump's defense secretary and national security advisor to answer for them. The deflections triggered an incredulous and angry backlash from the committee's liberals. Warner, who accused Gabbard of bobbing and weaving and trying to filibuster, demanded repeatedly that she reconcile her conflicting assertions that the information in the text chain was not classified, but also that she was not at liberty to talk about it. If there are no classified materials, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways, he said. You're the head of the intelligence community, Senator Angus King said, apparently baffled when Gabbard said she would defer to the Secretary of Defense, the National Security Council, on that question of whether targeting information should have been classified. You're supposed to know about classifications, King said.
These are good questions because, yeah, the first natural reaction you have to that is, oh, if it's not classified, well, show me those classified texts.
Yeah.
Present them to everyone if they're completely fine. Now, at one point in the hearing, Senator John Ossoff said, this is utterly unprofessional. There's been no apology. There has been no recognition of the gravity of this error. And by the way, we will get the full transcript of this chain, and your testimony will be measured carefully against its content. And that's called foreshadowing. We didn't know how quickly that was going to happen, but folks, on Tuesday, if this guy was holding it back for any other reason than a trap, then whatever, but it worked out that way, how they immediately came out, denied everything, said that whatever was in there actually wasn't that bad, if there was anything at all.
Well, let's say, hypothetically, we actually see the contents of this group chat.
Oh,
will
well.
anything that you said today maybe sound like lying?
Luckily, this story will have been blown over by then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on Tuesday, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who was in that group chat, and according to Jeffrey Goldberg, was the one who invited him to the chat, went on Fox News to heavily insinuate.
So, like, for example, like, you're listening right there. So they're saying that the dude is a raging alcoholic. Yeah, I would say that has an effect, but at the same time, I don't know if it has a large effect. You know, because, like, look, everybody has their vices. Everybody has their things that they do. You know, if he's getting drunk in like the privacy of his home, and like it's only the privacy of his home that's being affected in that regard, then I don't really think that should like really have any kind of bearing on the situation. You know, because look, everybody, like I said, everybody has their vices. There's people who have been drug addicts. There's people who have been in really dark places where they've been taking a lot of substances. And that doesn't mean that they can never come back. Like one of the, or like not come back or do their job. It just means that that's part of their, part of them, if that makes sense. Like that's kind of my thought on that. It's not necessarily like a super bad thing if the person drinks a lot. Like if they drink on the job, then obviously they should get fired. But even then, like depending on the kind of job that you do, like I said, I've been in a company before, and like just people drinking, like day drinking during the job. If it's small enough, and if it's like low stake enough, I've seen people who drink, you know, like on the job, and I've seen people who get fired for drinking on the job. So again, like it really does kind of depend, like how and when he's drinking, rather than like, oh, like he's an alcoholic, like he can't do the job. Like no, like if he is because I think there was a previous in a previous administration, I might be misremembering it, but for Bush, there was a guy who I think he was the Secretary of Defense as well, and he was constantly hammered on the job. And the dude, maybe not, I don't remember if it was on the job, because these guys covered him as well. And the dude, like, still did his job. Does that kind of make sense? Like, maybe there's an argument there to be said that, hey, like, this shouldn't really be happening. But, like, that kind of feels like irrelevant to the whole situation. Now, over the fact that they lied, like, again, it's not really surprising that your government lied to you about something that they did incorrectly. Like, I think that's something that we can kind of expect. I think it's just more of, like, usually Republicans are the ones who do make a much more fuss about that kind of thing. Because they're, like, usually there's, like, a conspiracy theory about how, like, people are getting, like, you know, trafficked or, like, things like that. And yeah, I don't know. I think the way that they're explaining it, I think that it is much more serious, like how they're saying it, because like obviously there's like classified information and things like that. But I kind of stand by my point that I was saying, like, look, these aren't normal people, and yeah, like, sure, like, they shouldn't have. If there's consequences, I would be surprised, is basically what I'm trying to say, because generally speaking, at least in this administration, like, things are kind of being played fast and loose. Like, you look at the whole Doge thing, like, there's a lot of courts that are arguing whether or not that's actually legal or not. You look at, like, the information that Doge has, like, oh, well, it's Social Security, like, the dude's rich or whatever. That doesn't really matter. Like, it's still a lot of info being given out to an individual who's not part of our government, you know? Or even a citizen of the U.S. So, it's very, I don't know, it's very hard to say that it's as lies as it is, but at least in my personal opinion, because Democrats are mostly toothless at this moment, unless there's a huge change or a huge shift in like the political sphere where Democrats come into power, I don't think anything's going to be done. And then another problem that kind of happens is that Democrats in general, even when they were in power, they didn't really do anything like excessively progressive, you know? Like, there was some infrastructure bills, there was some stuff that like Biden did and he didn't talk about enough, but for actual Democrats, like a lot of the topics come down to trying to be centrist. But like, I think the party is kind of moving away from the idea of centrism, because if you're centrist, sometimes it's not good enough for certain people, and if you are not left enough, you tend to get attacked. And yeah, I think that it's a serious situation. I just doubt that there's going to be consequences.
That Jeffrey Goldberg had somehow schemed his way into the group chat.
How did a Trump-hating editor of The Atlantic end up on your Signal chat?
You know, Laura, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but of all the people out there, somehow this guy who has lied about the president, who has lied to Gold Star families, lied to their attorneys, and gone to Russia hoax, gone to just all kinds of links to lie and smear the president of the United States, and he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group.
How would that work?
Okay, I'm sorry. First of all, you invited him, Mike. But secondly, if a journalist did somehow manage to just sneak their way into your very secure war chat with vital information to national security, you realize that might be even more embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
Another thing, like, so they mentioned it earlier, like, I kind of think that it would be better for the administration for them to kind of get on top of this and be like, hey, it was a mistake, and leave it at that, because the more they try to smear, or the more they try to say like, hey, like this guy's against us or X, Y, and Z, you know, the more that they try to do that, the more you realize, like, or not realize, but the more it makes them look incompetent, you know, like they're saying, like, this guy made the group chat, like, you're the one who put his number in. How did that happen? And if there is somebody like who mysteriously or magically got that inside of their like put that journalist inside of the group chat without anybody noticing, then that, again, that highlights a really big security risk, or a large amount of incompetence, at least, again, in my opinion. And yeah, just lying and saying, hey, there was no war plans or stuff like that. One, it confuses the narrative, because then you have people arguing whether or not there was war plans or not. Because, you know, one side of the spectrum is going to say, no, there were no war plans, it was just a group chat. The other side of the spectrum is going to say, no, there was group plans. It doesn't matter whether or not there was group plans. Like, it's still a very serious thing. You have a security risk where a person got into a chat that they weren't supposed to. You have nobody really caring when that person left the group chat, and nobody even realizing that somebody had infiltrated the group chat until much later, until this guy was like, hey, like, this happened, and it was confirmed, and like double and triple confirmed. So again, I think the best angle for the Trump administration, I would say, would be to just say, hey, this was a mistake, it won't happen again, and all that crap, even if it's like partial words. And then I would say again, like for the Democrats, use this as a jumping off point. Like, again, it's dangerous because it's the military and it makes people scared because they're worried that they're incompetent. But most people aren't worried about that. Most people are worried about the fact that eggs are like $10 right now. You know, I went to go buy some food for my nieces and nephews, and I was looking at the egg prices. That's like $11 right now. That's what people care about. They care about, like, does the economy feel strong enough? Do they have the capability to buy things that they want? Like, they won't necessarily care about somebody fucking up a group chat where they were gonna bomb somebody that is determined to be terrorist. Now, here's another thing. I think they're gonna be covering this in a bit, and I'll talk about it. But let's continue.
I think so. But this is just Mike Waltz clearly trying to cover his ass at a time when he appears to be absurdly bad at his job. And here's Politico with some insight on how that's going. Half of them saying he's never going to survive or shouldn't survive, said the official, who, like others, was granted anonymity to discuss internal deliberation. Two high-level White House aides have floated the idea that Waltz should resign in order to prevent the president from being put in a bad position. It was reckless not to check who was on the thread. It was reckless to be having that conversation on Signal. You can't have recklessness as the national security advisor, the official said. A person close to the White House was even more blunt. Everyone in the White House can agree on one thing. Mike Waltz is a fucking idiot. I think America can come together. Yeah. Finally, someone bringing everyone together to chime in at once and say, "You fucking moron! You're so stupid."
Yeah, it's classic unforced error.
But
And it's hilarious to do such an egregious, ridiculous unforced error and then blame a journalist who you dropped the story into his lap.
yeah, it was crazy deflection. But also, man, it's gotta suck to be the first guy involved in the first massive scandal of the second Trump administration. Because you knew it was coming.
It's there will be more where that came
Oh,
from.
absolutely.
We won't even remember Mike Waltz in a year.
Yeah, but yeah, the problem is with everyone else, the not admitting fault is step one in the Trump playbook. That is the first rule is you never ever do that.
Deny, deflect.
But meanwhile, on Tuesday, the Secretary of Defense made it clear that none of this is actually a big deal at all.
Yeah, calm down.
Because it wasn't actually a war chat, guys. Woo, you blow this way out of proportion, okay? And by the way, nobody was texting any war plans.
Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
On top of everything else on Tuesday, it was also revealed that the official Pentagon stance on using Signal for anything, let alone active military operations, is that you really shouldn't do that. Here's NPR. Several days after top national security officials accidentally included a reporter in a Signal chat about bombing Houthi sites in Yemen, a Pentagon-wide advisory warned against using the messaging app, even for unclassified information. A vulnerability has been identified in the Signal Messenger application, begins the department-wide email, dated March 18th and obtained by NPR. The memo continues, Russian professional hacking groups are employing the linked devices feature to spy on encrypted conversations. It notes that Google has identified Russian hacking groups that are targeting Signal Messenger to spy on persons of interest. Moreover, a memo in 2023, obtained by NPR, warned of using Signal for any non-public official information. In the military, sending classified data over insecure channels is called spillage. It can be a career ender for a military officer. The 2023 Defense Department memo prohibited use of mobile applications for even controlled unclassified information, which is many degrees less important than information about ongoing military operations. There's almost no precedent for the heads of defense, state, intelligence, and national security to be sharing such sensitive military intelligence in a forum that was known to be unsecured. It's insane.
So, okay. Discussing classified military operations in a war group chat is definitely something that everyone involved should have known not to do. But luckily, according to Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard, they definitely didn't do anything like that.
All right, well, case closed.
So, fast forward exactly one fucking day to Wednesday, and oh shit. What is that rumble I hear? It's The Atlantic with an article titled, "Here are the attack plans that Trump's advisors shared on Signal." Wow. Unfortunately, we do not spend $80 a year on an Atlantic subscription, but luckily those transcripts have since been published elsewhere.
Oh shit, I had the audio on. Sorry about that. I'll be right back. I need to clean the brush. Okay, I'm back. Where were we? Wait, do I still have... Okay, 14 minutes.
And I don't know, man. Some of these messages definitely look like very detailed descriptions of highly sensitive military operations.
So, this is the first time I've ever seen something like this, but... That's crazy.
In fact, yeah, I it's hard for me to think of something that could be more detailed to every member of Trump's cabinet than these messages that were sent.
Yeah, like this one, for example, which provides a precise timeline of airstrikes, as well as specifics of which military equipment's going to be used. And it ends with, we are currently clean on OPSEC. They were not, in fact, currently clean on OPSEC.
That is going to become an all-timer.
We are currently clean on OPSEC. So here's the Washington Post with more.
The newly released material includes a message sent by Hegseth at 11:44 a.m. Eastern on March 15th, the day of the Yemen operation, confirming the timeline of the planned strikes scheduled to commence roughly 2 hours later. It also included the type of aircraft involved, manned F-18 jets and MQ-9 Reaper drones, along with sea-based Tomahawk missiles, and the fact that one high-profile target was at his known location. The president's defenders have acknowledged that Goldberg was inadvertently included in the chat while seeking to downplay assertions that the material shared over the messaging app, had it been compromised by an adversary, would have jeopardized the lives of American service members involved in the operation. But veteran national security professionals said such information would almost certainly be classified, describing a projected schedule of attacks like the one Hegseth shared with the chat group as a closely guarded secret that should be discussed only in a secure environment. This information was clearly taken from the real-time order of battle sequence from an ongoing operation. It is highly classified and protected, said Mick Milroy, a former CIA paramilitary officer and Marine Corps veteran who served as a senior Pentagon official during Trump's first term in office. Next to nuclear and covert operations, this information is the most protected. And that's what's crazy is so many arguments online are like, well, how serious is it though, actually? And I would venture to say that even something less than this would clearly raise eyebrows and probably break a ton of laws. And the obvious stench in the air would be that if anyone in a Democratic administration had done anything close to this, I can't even think of what would happen.
Yeah, it wouldn't be no big deal, boys being boys.
January 6th would be it would be something similar, I would feel, if all of the top cabinet.
It's just very funny that what they decided to go with was like, no, none of this stuff was classified. None of it would, in any scenario, be classified. As if there aren't hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people in this country with like direct personal knowledge of how classification works due to working in the military or in government contracting positions where, like, if any of them were to do this kind of thing, they would be in prison for a very long time. It's just funny to just assume no one's going to connect the dots. Like, I don't know how classification works, so whatever Tulsi Gabbard says
Even
sounds
the
about right.
wargaming community knows how classified documents work.
Yeah.
And for once, they're in the clear.
So this is something that I have thoughts about, right? So it kind of comes down to how important do people or how valuable do people consider information to be, right? And what I mean by people, I don't mean like government officials, I don't mean military people. What I'm talking about is like the average run-of-the-mill person, right? Like if you put this in front of a person who voted for Trump, or even just a regular person who doesn't know that much about like the way that the government works or the way that classification works, again, at the base of it, at the very root of it, it just looks like somebody used an inappropriate app. They used and they shared information they shouldn't have. Now, I think that they are right. Had this been like a person that's easily hateable by the Trump administration, right? Like high-profile Democrat or anything like that, this would have been a much different situation because, again, you can kind of point to Hillary Clinton with Benghazi and all the committees and all the hype that was built around that. Now, do I think that Democrats are going to kind of do that and focus on this? I could see it, honestly speaking, because, again, this is a very strong talking point for military people, and if they can put this forth towards the American people as a key issue, then yeah. But again, like, I don't know how much this is going to go or how far this is going to go.
You guys, you're free to go.
Anyway, it's sort of flown under the radar amidst everything else, but it is worth pointing out that in addition to terrible OPSEC, the actual operation itself would be considered a war crime, regardless of how secure the communications had been. At one point, Michael Waltz says, VP, building collapsed, had multiple positive ID. Pete, Korea, the IC, amazing job. JD Vance replies, what? And Waltz replies with, typing too fast. The first target, their top missile guy, we had positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and it's now collapsed. And JD Vance found this news excellent, and then Mike Waltz was like, fist bump, American flag, flames.
Yeah, and like right before it, they're like praying for a great job. It's just so sickening.
But they blew up an entire residential building to kill one guy. And according to other reporting around that strike, it killed at least 13 people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really shocking at all. I mean, especially after...
I'm going to stop here. Somebody needs me to run an errand, but I'll try to remember where I was at 15 minutes in. But I really want to get through this because I think it's an interesting conversation. If you're watching, thank you. Take care, okay? Bye.